Radio Q. Wir sind der Campus.
Last year you won the Best British Breakthrough Award. This year you released your first album. Quite huge milestones, I think, in your band history. How did your lives change since then?
Everything's gotten super hectic. So much to do and so little time to do it, I think, is the key phrase. And we've come from being like a small band from the countryside of Wales where not a lot happens and it's pretty sleepy, but to just be thrown into this chaos of the music world. We've played, hundreds of shows, and we've really worked our asses off trying to get this album as good as possible. And now we're here on tour in Europe again with Being as an Ocean, and it's really sick to be here. So.
Yeah, it's not the first time that you having shows in Europe, but still, how does it feel to play gigs outside the UK? Is it different for you somehow?
Yeah, I think it's very different because a lot of the people that we're playing to, they've never heard of us before. And when we play at home, there's a bit more familiarity with our sound and who we are as people. And so people know a bit more what to expect, whereas sometimes we'll play a show on this run and nobody in the room knows what's about to grace the stage in front of them. And so there's that level of we really have to try and work hard and connect with the audience as best as we can, and sometimes get through like language barriers and stuff, and use just physical energy and communication to try and spark that fire in the crowd. And I think it can be a challenge that's like ever changing, and there's always different factors to be aware of. And so it's exciting and scary and, cool at the same time. Some of the fans on the continent, they behave differently in the room and things. Sometimes they'll be moshing just like that, and then other times they're stood perfectly still just watching you. Like,
do you have some examples where you reckoned they're standing still, and like in Germany, for example, they're moshing just?
The shows have really blended into one on this tour. I think I've finding it difficult to remember which night was where, but I don't know. I try not, when I'm performing, I don't focus too much on the details of what's going on in the crowd, because even if they're standing perfectly still, I want to be going crazy and like performing as best as I can. I don't want to think, are they having fun? Like, maybe they're not having fun. So you kind of have to get into that psyche. So honestly, I find it hard to like remember what the crowd was like in each city, but I've got a general vibe, and it's been really positive on the whole. So I think the pair-ups of the bands on this tour have been, meshed well together, and there's been a lot of connection between the bands and things. So I think the crowd has been really receptive to that, and it seems to be a success so far. It's been a really fun tour.
Yeah, cool. Making music is quite an expensive thing to do, at least at the beginning. Many musicians need to do 2 or more jobs to make a living. How is it like with you and the band? What are you doing besides making music to make this all happen?
So at the moment, I'm making breakfasts for the old people in an old folks' home. So that's what I do. I do like 3.5 hours shifts, like a few times a week, just to keep my pocket money coming in, so that I can, afford to eat and pay for gear when it breaks and stuff. So I'm just scraping by at the moment. And so it's been a really difficult journey, because it's so difficult to maintain the balance between your living and because when we're on tour especially, it's like you're in this bubble and you're protected, because like you don't have to think too much about things, because you're too preoccupied with what's going on. You're like, oh, we have to sound check, oh, we have to play a show, oh, we have to go to merch and say hi to people and things. And so there's always something new coming on. So, but then when we go home and it's like, I have to work. Like, I need to bring my bank balance back up, otherwise I'm going to have serious problems. You know, you can't pay rent, you can't, you know, afford your phone bill, you can't do so many different things. And so it's been really hard, like really, really hard, especially when we were doing the album and things, because we went from Australia to Europe. Then we had about a week to get everything ready for the studio, for the album. Then we were in the studio for about a month. And then we were home for about another week. And then we were on tour for nearly a month. And so literally, like Christmas to May, like there was just not enough hours in the day. And it was scary at times, like how we were managing it. But we pulled through, I hope. So yeah, we're here, we're alive. The band is still going, and I think we're stronger than ever. So
cool.
Yeah.
And how do you all prepare before a show? Just 1 or 2 hours before. What do you do to prepare musically or mentally?
We sometimes, like, I know CJ likes to meditate sometimes if she's like feeling the nerves quite hard, so she'll just like take her headphones and go to a corner and do a meditation session. Like, I like to do a lot of stretches and things, because I feel like if you're holding your body in one place, it can kind of help settle yourself a little bit and ground yourself. And then things like vocal warm-ups, you know, we usually do a big hug before we go on stage and things. So just the little things to kind of, to hype ourselves up. And sometimes like we might have a beer before we play or something, you know, it's just, but lots of little things like that. Generally, CJ and I won't eat for a while before the show, because it affects the vocals. So and
chocolate is really bad.
I've tried to avoid chocolate, but things like, you know, kind of things with like a lot of creamy textures, so like cheeses and things like that, you know, they're not very good. I tend to try and drink as much water as possible, but it seems to work. But sometimes we'll do things and it just won't make a difference at all, and it's like, okay, well, this is what I'm dealing with, so you just gotta go out and you're gonna hit it. So
while being on tour, do you have some time off to do some sightseeing in the different cities, or aren't you even in the mood to do that?
We do have a little bit of time on occasion. Like, essentially on every Europe tour we've done, we've been in a van traveling and following like a sleeper bus. So like, being as an ocean and novelists, they're traveling in a sleeper bus so that they can sleep in the night when they're traveling, whereas we can't do that, so we have to stay somewhere. And so we often arrive at the venue, you know, well, we got here about 25 minutes, 30 minutes ago. So we've only just rocked up and already we're here. You know, I don't have time to wander into town now. So it's just like, I just have to get on with it. But sometimes we do have time, and we do try our best to go and see things.
Christmas is not far away from now. Are you already in the mood for Christmas, or is this a thing that doesn't start before the end of the tour?
For me, it doesn't start before the end of the tour. It's in the back of my mind. I'm like, I need to get presents and things, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to do it when I get home.
So you're not listening to Christmas music or eating cookies?
No, nothing like that. I was trying to find somewhere that where I could buy some glühwein yesterday, because that's quite a Christmassy thing, isn't it? Like, but there was nowhere near the laundrette where we were washing our clothes, so I went without.
What do you like most when you're touring and you have time by yourself a bit? Do you listen to music, or do you read books, or watching a series on Netflix or something?
All of the above. We do. Just, I mean, it's kind of its own kind of meditation sometimes when you get that pair of headphones over your head and you just get a little bit of isolation. But often, we're quite social in the van. We'll chat a lot and, just talk about absolute nonsense sometimes, just to make the hours go by. But yeah, like I was playing some video games this morning just to chill on the drive.
What kind of video games?
I didn't bring a console with me on this tour because I wanted to try and do more, like normally I'd bring like a little handheld thing, but I wanted to do more like focused stuff with like work and making sure that I'm updating my social media and all of that. But then I just downloaded like Pokemon onto my phone. So I'm kind of just like, that's out the window, just playing like a retro game for like 2 hours.
Nice. Could you tell me more about how you create your songs and how you created the songs on Primerose Path? Do the lyrics exist before the instrumental stuff, or is it the other way around, or mixed up?
For the lyrics, so CJ wrote the majority of the lyrics on the album. So like I wrote the lyrics for chapters. And her method for it is, for the album at least, she attacked a lot of the songs like after. And she had a lot of like inspirations and phrases and things that she'd written down and kind of held on to. But it wasn't until the songs were completed that like she could really get, a good grasp on the sounds. So a lot of the songs for us, they start on an instrumental level. So we'll start with maybe a guitar riff or a synth line, and then we'll just build and layer up and rearrange things and work with sections and stuff. So that's kind of how the flow works. So, but when I'm writing, I'll sometimes write lyrics or poetry because I feel like there's kind of a music behind the words. You can listen to a sentence and hear like a rhythm to it, and I kind of latch onto that and develop it further. But then those lyrics that I write, then they just get put to one side, and then we give it to CJ, and then it's like, here, what do you make of it? And then it's just a case of bouncing ideas back and forth between us, and there's your album. So
okay. Yes, on the album you had some new stuff. I think of the speaking parts in some songs, or some more electronic sounds. Who had the idea to do those new experimental things?
Well, with the electronics, that was one of the things that we wanted to bring in right from the beginning. So we took a lot of inspiration from Linkin Park and that kind of the Hybrid Theory album, and how there's that blend of samples and synth instrumentation with guitars and harsh vocals, and that kind of balance between things. And then really we took a lot of liberty and flexibility with our approach to the album. So we did a lot of things. We took a lot of risks, basically. We were just like, is this too weird? No, like, let's run with it. Like, this feels interesting to us. Like, it feels like something that stands out. And so those bits of spoken word, CJ was listening to a lot of bands who were incorporating some spoken words. And so she found that some of her lyrics were kind of going in that direction. And so we tried it out. And it's such a great way to cleanse the palette of what you're playing and change things up and keep things interesting, because the last thing you want when you're listening to an album is for the delivery of the vocals or the style of the songs to be too much repetition in it, or like not enough cleansing of the palette and refreshing yourself with each track. And that's what we were really trying to push for with with the album. And so hopefully we achieved that. But
I think so.
Yeah,
thank you. I really like the album.
I appreciate that.
So last question, two. So on Facebook, many fans write that they want to see you in the US. I just read it on every post, I think. Is there something planned for next year?
At the moment, there's not really anything planned for the US yet, because one thing that a lot of people don't realize is just how expensive it is to tour the US. And like we're the kind of band where we don't have like a great deal of financial support on our own level. We're all kind of trying to get through and trying to make the band happen and struggling a little bit. So there's no kind of cash injection that we can just invest into the band to do something like that. We absolutely can't wait to tour the US. Like that is one, like probably on the top of all of our lists, but it's just so hard. Like it's so difficult to actually get out there. And so, yeah, we're trying to plan things, we're hoping that something good will come along and we can get our name out there. And yeah, one day we'll get there, I hope. But it's just, it's one of those things where, like, as much as we want to go, like the cost for visas, the cost for, a vehicle over there and like getting your equipment out there and stuff, it's quite difficult. So hopefully in the near future, I mean, next year would be sick, but I'm very much prepared to wait until the year after if we have to. Because what we don't want to do is finish a tour and then be like bankrupt as a band. So we have to be intelligent with our decisions and like how we approach things, because we don't want to be in a sticky situation and not be able to continue as a band anymore. So we have to be careful. But yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, so last question now. Your last gig this year will be on the 1st of December. Do you already know what you will do for the first thing when you're at home back in the UK?
Yeah, I do. My sister is visiting, so she lives in America, and I've been away while she's been home visiting the family for this whole time, but I just managed to catch her on the last day that she's in the UK. So she flies home the day after. So yeah, that's my plan. So it's kind of the sacrifices that you have to make when you're touring, because you can't predict when you're going to be on the road. And I missed her last time she came to the UK because of a tour. And so this time I get one day, so that'll be nice to see her. Time with your sister. Exactly. Yeah, cool. So family, is a bit important factor to all of us, and so we really need to. It's probably the first on the priority list for everyone.